at this MP in the Sunday Mirror,
yes.
Tom, it's a Labour MP who's been involved in a 3 a.m. fight on the streets of wherever it was.
Yes, this is Mike Amesbury. So in his Cheshire constituency, he was out on the streets at 3 a.m. There was a video that's done the rounds on social media.
Which is frankly shocking when he's talking.
Exactly. People are essentially sort of shouting at him. There's obviously been a physical confrontation. The exact quote, as people were pointing out, the MP is, "Yes, I am, and you won't threaten the MP ever again, will you?" Funny little detail here is that earlier in the day he was attending a community safety meeting. So,
but we don't know what was
certainly
said to him that infuriated him so much, do we?
We don't, and I'm sure that will come out in the wash.
Do you think there's ever a justification for if you're feeling attacked, that you can defend yourself before it might get worse? I know it may have looked in the footage that it was aggressive and he shouldn't have been doing this, especially as a member of Parliament. But if someone is, up in your face, it's late at night. You were even saying John Prescott when someone...
John Prescott was hailed for it, actually.
When he was egged and he went straight for the kill.
Yeah, but I think the problem you've got with this is that you end up with somebody lying on the floor, surrounded by other people, and he's clearly been put there by this MP, because he makes a point of saying it, and then he uses some pretty foul language and calls him...
It's not a good look, is it?
Calls him a soft boy and all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's...
But pretty awful language might have been used to him.
Maybe that's...
But then the physical, was he the first? If he was the first to get physical, then that's a big no-no. But then sometimes people can really get in your face and you can feel threatened, that you feel like you have to, otherwise it's you or them, isn't it?
Interestingly, he reported himself to the police.
Well, that's good.
So...
It's sort of fessed up for it, but especially nowadays, you can't, as an MP, you're going to have...
Yes,
there should be that level of scrutiny, but also people are going to film everything.
But but we need to know the context. I mean, I agree that maybe it's not justification for getting physical back, but it may be context, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is safe to play. Let's have a look.
Don't you dare shoot me. You won't ever threaten me again. The MP you won't ever threaten me again, will you? Leave it. The MP will run on the floor. What want to do? Leave it. The MP will run smacking someone on the floor. Get out of that film. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And you won't threaten the MP ever again, will you?
Oh, is it Mike? Is it Mike?
Yes.
He's the local MP, Jono.
Oh, yeah.
Get him on camera. Get him on camera, Jono. He's the local MP.
Oh, he's angry, isn't he?
Yeah. Pretty well oiled as well at that time of the night.
Well, yes.
He doesn't look like he can control his anger much, which is a concerning thing. If you hit somebody as a defence mechanism, you wouldn't then continue with the person on the floor, would you?
Go on like that? No, it's...
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. As a person in
shouldn't.
Public office...
It's not a good. I have to say, it's not a good look. I'm all for defending yourself, but there are limits.
I suppose so, and especially because nowadays anything like that is going to go viral. It's going to be, on everyone's phones. This is going to be the primary thing this MP is known for.
I heard the lady in the background. Get it on film. Get it on film.
Yeah.
Film him.
And another one saying, he's the local MP. He's the local MP. So. It's not what we'd normally expect from an MP, but MPs are treated appallingly.
They are.
You've got to rise above it. If you're in that
they're
position,
human, though, aren't they?
But where did you stand on the John Prescott punch?
Well, yeah, but he just had an egg thrown at him.
Yeah.
And he responded with a punch, but then that was it, wasn't it?
There was a little bit of a...
But this, it's a bit too extended for me.
I'll never forget the video that was of Buzz Aldrin, who'd had it all his life. People coming up and saying, you never went to the moon, you never went to the moon.
Yeah.
And he really was fed up with it, and somebody did come up and say it once too often, and he just went and landed.
And how did you feel about it?
Yeah.
Do you think?
I think after a lifetime being told you never went to the moon when you did, maybe it was excusable.
All right, thanks you two. We've had a statement from him now, who says, I was involved in an incident that took place after I felt threatened on the street following an evening out with friends. This morning I contacted Cheshire Police myself to report what happened. I will not be making public comment, but will cooperate with any inquiries if required to do so by Cheshire Police.
And then he says, how he remains committed to working hard for the people in his constituency. Context
all
is
out.
all.
Wonder how they feel about it.
Well, it'll be
What, the
interesting
people in his
to see.
constituency?
They might even be quite supportive.
I think they'll be like we were earlier, is just asking for a bit more context to know what actually happened.
Because it's budget week, of course, this week. It's emerged that thousands of businesses are closing their doors due to fears that Labour will impose one of the biggest corporate tax rates in history on Wednesday.
This comes despite Rachel Reeves claiming that it will match some of the greatest economic moments in Labour history.
But meanwhile, Labour donor Dale Vince has issued some choice words to people threatening to flee Britain over potential tax rises.
Well, joining us in the studio, political commentator Peter Spencer. Gosh, do you think it's go down as one of the great budget speeches of all time?
Well, I think it's certainly going to be a defining moment within this government. There's no question about that, because we're talking about huge sums of money here. And of course, there are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. And what we've been seeing in this, what feels like an interminable run-up to this budget, and of course, remember, it is actually the longest that there's been for many, many years. It's sort of gone round and round in circles, hasn't it? You know, I write a weekly column for a political column for a magazine. I'm writing something, I think, this looks familiar. I think, yeah, well, I wrote this last week. You know, they're constantly sort of, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. When it comes to the choice words about business, I have a recollection of Boris Johnson saying exactly the same choice words about business back in the day. And, of course, we have to be careful about when we hear about businesses that are going to close. Going to close is not the same as actually doing so. I'm quite sure that the increase in national interest...
But they're already talking, aren't they not? A lot of employers are talking about, they just won't take on any more staff until they know what's going to happen. Well,
of course they don't.
They're not going to recruit.
No, I mean, there's going to be that. And then there's going to be people who own care homes, for example, who are working on a knife edge anyway. And, you know, if some of those go to the wall, there's a reasonable chance they will, then there'll be more bed blocking in the NHS. So, yeah, there will be losers, there's no question about it. Against that, it makes perfect sense, it seems to me, that Rachel Reeves is doing this real mega biggie at this point, because alongside this large increase in taxes, there's also going to be a huge boost in investment.
Or borrowing, if you want to look at it that
borrowing,
way.
Yeah, sure. She's changed the rules about how she's going to do it to raise another 50 billion quid. But it's worth remembering that while the Tories are, of course, crying foul, we note that the former governor of the Bank of England says it's a jolly good idea, and so does the chief economist of the IMF.
I think the problem with all this is that the entire economic strategy, really, of the government is based on growth. And what they're doing in terms of small and medium-sized businesses, certainly, is not conducive to growth. So it all seems to be based on the investment. But we do know that government investment projects are often not that good for growth, because they run over time, over budget, run very slowly. So aren't they putting all their eggs in one basket?
They're putting an awful lot of them, and their hope and their prayer, I would guess, is that they will actually manage projects rather better than their predecessor government. But if they get it right, and they've got 5 years, let's face it, to sort of make things start to happen with more roads, more hospitals, more schools, perhaps even the odd prison or two, who knows? These are things that, and more social housing, these are things that they won't happen overnight, but within the next 5 years there will be evidence of them springing up. And the hope is that they will have proved that in the end, what their strategy that they've adopted will work. And the rule of thumb has absolutely always been, or certainly Tony Blair made this point repeatedly, said, look, hit at the very start when you're at your maximum potency, because as the years of any government's life pass, your potency diminishes and you've got less time on your side. So crack on with it now, and that's precisely what she's doing.
Can I just ask one more point there? Is Rachel Reeves unbelievably arrogant, or are all chancellors like this? Because not only does she go on about being the first female chancellor this country has ever had in a very proud way, well, she might well be proud of that, but she also says this is going to be a stunningly historic budget.
Well, I wouldn't accuse her of arrogance. I would accuse her of a certain amount of chutzpah, perhaps, when it comes to it. But it is big. Because, OK, she says that the Tory government did fiddle the figures a bit, and so we've got to claw back £20 billion. But she's also saying we've got to find another £20 billion to avoid us being in the doom loop of things being as rubbish, just standing still, basically being as rubbish as they are now. Couple that with the other £50 billion from this different way of borrowing the money, and no, it is a very big deal indeed. This budget is one of the biggest certainly one of the biggest that I've ever seen, and there will be winners and losers, and devil take the hindmost.
Yeah. Well,
OK, Peter?
only 2 more days of speculation.
Thank heavens. Thank heavens. Well, I'll tell you what I don't understand with all of this, which is why they didn't come out and say from the sort of beginning, this is going to be a country-changing budget. It might be a bit hard at times, but this is going to change our economy, and over the next 5 years we will see exactly how good this is all working out. A really nice positive spin. Instead, all we had from Keir Starmer was saying, oh, it's going to be really hard, really, really hard. They've spun it entirely wrong.
I think so too, but other people would say, well, they're only being realistic and preparing us all for something that is going to be unpalatable to many.
Maybe, but the answer is whatever good may come out of this in several years' time, if anything, we're just not looking at, are we? We're not even considering, really, because it just seems all pain and no gain at the moment.
Well, anyway, Rachel is going to be very proud of her budget, apparently.
Apparently so. Well, so was Kwasi Kwarteng.
Yes, it still is.
Yeah, but it didn't go down that well, did it? Right, Peter, thank you.